It's hard to believe that we're on the cusp of reaching the final episode of Masters of the Air. It feels like the show's flown by, and I'm gonna be gutted when it finishes. With episode 8 just being released, at the end of the episode there was a trailer for the season finale that was played, and it's safe to say that it looks like it's gonna be an emotionally epic one which covers the final moments in Stalag Luft 3, Rosenthal in Poland, and it looking like Buck could potentially make an escape. So with that, let's jump into the trailer and break down all that there was to take away from it and look at what could happen. Here is Masters of the Air episode 9 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. I touch on the real events that occurred that seem like they're going to be covered in the finale, so if you don't want it spoiled, then this video might not be for you. So the trailer for the next episode opened up with it looking like Stalag Luft 3 was being burned to the ground. Not necessarily because of an attack, but at the hands of the Germans. During this moment, we heard the words, "March, march," being shouted by the guards. Within Buck's hut as well, somebody also entered and said how they've only got 30 minutes, then they need to go. During the next couple of clips, we saw that Bucky, Buck, and all of the men that we've come to be familiar with in Stalag Luft 3 were marching out of the site of the camp and through fierce, frosty, unforgiving conditions in a direction that's unknown, but most likely Sprinberg based on what actually happened. When looking at what actually happened in reality, it looks like this is going to be taking place on January the 27th, 1945 at around 7 PM. There were apparently troops that were only 16 miles away from closing in on Stalag Luft 3, so the 10,000 men that were contained there as prisoners were ordered to leave the camp and march out of there together. It's said the conditions were extremely cold, freezing, they were in 6 inches of snow, and they marched for around 50 miles in these conditions. With news being broadcast about how Germany was losing the war on both fronts, the east and the west, whilst on their journey there were fleeing German civilians that they were coming across and chaos that was just present all around. This scene here where Daniels was looking at the destruction that was present in the heart of Germany is something which is probably going to be quite symbolic. The boys have been inside the camp for a long while and don't know the full extent of what's been going on outside of the camp in recent months, or at least seen it with their own eyes. So it's definitely going to show the status of the war to them and show that Germany is on its last legs in the fight. Within the trailer as well, there were clips of the prisoners marching in the cold, and it's said that on the first day of marching, the American troopers lost their first man, and after that people just kept disappearing, and some gave up and lied down where they just couldn't move any longer. Some also made an attempt to escape from the single file line that they were being ordered to march in. Within the trailer, Buck said the line, "You're not thinking of running, are you?" To which Bucky responded by saying, "Not in this icebox." What's interesting about this is the fact that Bucky has been looking to escape for quite a while now, even whilst in the camp, whereas now he's choosing not to, showing that he knew that it wasn't the right time. Judging by what we saw later on in the trailer, it actually looks like Buck's going to make an attempt to escape, as Bucky was seen stopping the German guard from firing at them. It was said that amongst the march there was general chaos that was present, and it looks like that's what's going to be happening when Buck manages to flee. After this part of the trailer, there was then a line which was spoken by Harry Crosby, where he said, "Whoever fights monsters should take care not to become a monster." This is a quote that seems to be adapted from Friedrich Nietzsche, if I've got that pronunciation right. I probably haven't. As this was being spoken, there was a clip of Buck coming across a young boy that was holding a weapon towards him, and he took it off of him, and it looked like he was going to fire at him. I can't imagine Buck would do that, but I suppose that's the purpose of the quote at this moment. Is Buck going to be driven to do a monstrous thing in order to survive? Personally, I don't think he'll kill the boy. In the next part of the trailer, we saw Rosenthal walking through Zabakowo, which was a security police and educational labour camp in Poland. This camp was used as a place to keep arrested people during investigations and interrogations, and if people were found guilty and were awaiting sentencing or execution, they'd also be kept there too. People would often be sent out to concentration camps from Zabakowo, and it was rare for somebody to ever be released. The camp itself was liberated on January 26, 1945, which makes me think that this scene that we're witnessing could be occurring around that time period. Like in Stalag Luft 3, there was an evacuation process that the Germans tried to do with the prisoners, and the Germans tried to burn and destroy everything. The scene that's going to be taking place here feels like it's going to have the powerful nature and feeling like what occurred in episode 9 of Band of Brothers. The shot in the trailer was horrific and heartbreaking, and it showed the horrors that occurred within the walls that were there. This is something that it seems will also impact Rosie moving forward too. Over the top of this clip, Rosie said, "Yeah, that's made us do some tough things, the things these people are capable of." No, they've got it coming. I imagine he's saying this after he's been to the camp, as it sounds like what he saw stuck with him, as it would with anybody, and he's reinforcing the idea that these people were just pure evil monsters. After this, there was then a shot of what looked like a camp being shot by a plane, a moment which was extremely brief in the trailer. The next part of the trailer contained a clip where there was a shot of Lieutenant Daniels looking at some other men inside of a different camp. Within the real events, a lot of the men that completed the march to Stremberg were all sent out to different prisoner of war camps. For example, some were sent to Stalag 7A in Moosburg, and others were sent to Stalag 13D in Nuremberg. That's where I'm presuming the scene of Buck making an escape could come from. Maybe after they arrived at Nuremberg, where they needed to then march to the camp. It seemed like Bucky was injured when causing the distraction to allow Buck to get away, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to him, and how the rest of his time is going to be spent without Buck. This then led us to the final part of the trailer, which started playing, and it seemed like Rosenthal had been shot down and had to activate his parachute before landing. I'm going to presume that this is Rosie's last combat mission that occurred on February the 3rd, 1945. This was a mission that was part of a 1,000-plane raid against Berlin. His B-17 was the lead bomber, and it suffered a direct flak hit which killed 2 of his crew. With the plane still in flames, he continued to the target to drop the load and then stayed with the plane until the rest of his crew had bailed out. Apparently, just before his plane exploded at an altitude of only 300 meters, that was when he bailed out. This shows just how much of a legend this man was. This mission actually earned him the Distinguished Service Cross, which is the United States Army's second highest military decoration. Within the trailer, once he was on the ground, we saw that he was in a panicked state and he drew his weapon due to there being gunshots that were being fired in the background, and there were people speaking in another language that were approaching him. However, it doesn't seem like these are going to be German speakers, but at this point we still don't know. It looks like he was sat there for a while, as these 2 shots look quite different in terms of the color grading, so I wonder how long he'll be there for and how wounded or injured he is. Then from there, with a close-up of Rosenthal, the trailer finished. It's safe to say that this final episode looks like it's going to contain a bit of everything that we've loved about the show. The scenes in the air, the deep diving into the mindset of the people, and the fight for survival that they all had. I have loved watching this show, and I truly hope that this final episode gives it the send-off that it deserves and wraps the story up in a nice, digestible and easy way. Personally, I hope there's not too much time just transitioning throughout it, as that's something that has taken me out of the odd episode, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. With a week to go, bring it on. So, there you have it, Masters of the Air Episode 9 Trailer Explained. If you want to see more videos on Masters of the Air, then click on the card in the top corner. I've covered every episode from the beginning, so if you want to see the breakdowns, then they're over on the channel. I've also been doing weekly breakdowns of Band of Brothers, and my Episode 3 breakdown is due to come out in the next couple of days. So if you'd like to see breakdowns on that show, then they're also on the channel too. Are you looking forward to the season finale? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.